Well, welcome to Council Preview. Tom Laux here, Communications Director, City of Marshfield. Sitting next to me, Steve Bark, City Administrator. Thanks for joining me.
Good to be here, Tom.
All right. Well, Council Preview, we're going to only do one, I believe, this month because we're going to have a shorter council meeting, the second one, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, the intention is for the 21st to be a shorter meeting. It's only 4 days before Christmas, and just the things that we have to do, which sometimes I think involves insurance renewals that have to come up at the last minute and those types of things. But unless we have something more significant, I think we can just wait until January. And we're also going to do a year-end, sort of a year-end review in early 2022, looking back at 2021. I'm excited to be part of that with you as well.
All right, sounds good. Steve here. I'm again doing double duty. Hopefully we get someone hired to help me out in the production world. So
sometimes it even looks like triple duty.
I think it is. Well, we won't go there. We'll leave it as that. So, all right. Well, let's get right into the agenda. This is for December 14th council meeting. Again, you can always watch us several ways. You can tune in to Marshfield Broadcasting Channel 991. You can go on our website, mfld.tv.org, mfldtv.org, and you can watch it streaming there. You can go to YouTube and type up Marshfield Broadcasting and look for Channel 991 there. You can find us streaming there. So plenty of ways, or come in person. We have plenty of room in the council chambers. Staff updates, Steve. Well, we have 3 of them on the list that we're going to talk about. Tell me about our new city planner.
Yeah, I'll just start out by saying we have 2 hellos and 1 goodbye, if that makes sense. We have some comings and goings at City Hall. In this case, the first hello is Stephen Wiley. He's coming to us as our new city planner. He actually started on the 22nd of November, a couple of weeks ago. But we want to formally introduce him to the council and to the public. This is a very visible position, Tom. This is somebody that people will be seeing, not just at Plan Commission meetings, but other council meetings and other activities and public get-togethers when we're talking about planning and development issues. And we're excited to have him on board. He worked for the city of Oshkosh for the last few years, and so he's got some good background in planning, and his duties are underway, but get a chance to meet him and talk to him as we go along as well. The other person we're going to be introducing who's new is Melissa Schmidt. She'll be our part-time finance assistant. We went a little while, actually, I think more than a year, Tom, without this position. Did some restructuring of positions in the finance department and kind of set this half-time position aside for a while. But Ron Almond, before he left, decided that it really makes sense to get somebody on board with all the things that go on, especially during the crazy times with tax collections and some of those types of things. So Melissa is joining us, and we're glad to have her as well. If I can jump into the retirement, we've talked about it before, Tom, but Scott Owen, who's been with the city, you probably know more than I do. I guess I don't know exactly how many years offhand he has worked for the city's fire and rescue department. But he is leaving. He's been the fire chief for the last few years. We wish Scott all the best. He's going to make some comments. I'll introduce him and give him some kudos before we bring him to the podium. But I encourage anybody who knows him, maybe you know him because he's been speaking at a community gathering you've been part of, or you know him for some other reason. Give him a word of encouragement and thanks for all he's done. He'll be leaving us here fairly soon and moving on to the next phase of his life. But we're very, very grateful for all that Scott has done for the city.
Yeah, definitely. We appreciate all the service that he has done. But yes, come on down. Send him off. I think he has a few more days after that, but not a lot.
No, not a lot. He'll be stepping aside, and he's done just outstanding service. So yeah, anything you can do to give him some thanks and some kudos would be well appreciated as we send him out with our gratitude.
All right, let's move on. You have quite a few things in consent piece. Let's go right into it. This has to do with our Board of Public Works meeting that happened on Monday. It is Wednesday here right now, I believe December 8th, if I have the date
correct.
Right. So we did this on December 6th, and this is approval for a request for proposals, RFP, for an Adler Road Trail project. Then we'll just go down the line. We have about 6 things.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest in this one, Tom. I mean, one of the things we found out, especially when Bryce Hembrick was here working on that plan, you were part of some of, covering that and promoting that, the walking and biking trails. People love our trail system, but they want to see it complete. They want to see it finished off so it all connects. This is an opportunity that would have cost us the city a lot of money on its own, but we're going to get a pretty good amount of it from grant funds, which is great. You always want to use federal and state dollars to do these projects. This is for the Adler Trail project. It'll be along the south side of Adler from Sycamore Street to Weber Park. So a good distance along Adler, and this will connect other pieces of our trail system so that there won't be the break that we have today. The goal is to get a consultant on board in February or early March and have them work on a plan with us so that we can get this project bid out later in the year and hopefully be ready for 2023 construction if all comes together. And again, I mean, this is one of those things people say, well, is it everybody's important as a street? I mean, we drive the streets every day, but these are very important to us in terms of recreational amenities, the quality of life, and I'm never ceased to be amazed by how many people tell me how thankful they are for the trail system that we have here in Marshfield.
Yeah, trails are really important nowadays. Not that they weren't before, but even more right now with the generation that we're seeing. A lot of cities are improving their trails that we see around central Wisconsin. Some of them are joining each other to communities. So look forward to that.
In the last year and a half, Tom, we've been battling COVID, and we're not done yet. I mean, the pandemic is still with us. So that's an opportunity people have to get outside and have a recreational amenity that is good for their health and their physical well-being, something you can do regardless of whether or not we're in a pandemic. So it's good for everyone. You want me to continue?
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, next up, coming from Board of Public Works, is a resolution for the East 17th Street special assessments. And again, what I want to note here is that we're all poised to ready and move forward in 2022 to reconstruct 17th Street over by the fairgrounds. It'll actually run from Peach to Maple. And it's a great project. Been a lot of things discussed. I think recently we talked about how we're incorporating some improvements on private property owned by the Fair Board to make it, good. They want to do some parking lot improvements, and we can kind of add those to the scope of it and assess them appropriately. There was a fairly lengthy conversation I see before the Board of Public Works on Monday. I didn't actually see the whole conversation. Maybe you did, but the whole issue of fairness and equity to what people ought to pay for their share of those kind of projects that include multiple phases, not just street, but other amenities and utilities. And it sounds like they got it all worked out, and they're ready to bring forth a resolution on Tuesday for council approval to cement what those resolutions or assessments are likely to be. But again, 2022, this will be one of the top things you and I talk about. It's been on the docket since I showed up here in 2011. Seeing that major improvement of a road that's in need, a thoroughfare, will be a good thing for the public, especially those who live in that area. Going on from there, finance, budget, and personnel, there were a number of items. I marked a few. The first one is, we talked about replacement. My gosh, Tom, we've talked about the retirement of the fire chief, the need to replace the police chief, the finance director, and now here we have Sam Warp leaving, the wastewater superintendent, after many great years of service. So what the committee recommended to the council is authority to staff to begin the process of recruiting and replacing Sam as the director or as the superintendent of wastewater. And then we need to have somebody in charge for the next 60 to 90 days. Mark Kivel has done this in the past. In fact, he's been the assistant street superintendent since back when Ron Dickrell was the head of that department. So he will fill in as the acting wastewater superintendent if the council approves, effective January 10th, for as long as it takes to find a new full-time replacement in that position. Other staffing issues we have, Jill Porter, the library director, brought one forward that was a good one. They have a lot of small positions, and she really did a good job of explaining this on Tuesday night at Finance Committee. Maybe somebody works 6 hours, this person works 10 hours, whatever. They're trying to combine those where they can for a couple of reasons. One, it's easier for them to get a better position to advertise and to get people to sign up for. But the more commitment they make to a position that might be more hours, even full-time in some cases, like it is here, the more likely they are to be able to recruit and keep somebody for a lot longer than just somebody working 8 or 10 hours. So this is a position combining 3 part-time employees into 1 full-time position and hopefully getting somebody for the long haul. The other two things I'll note, Tom, under finance, budget, and personnel. One is a proposed agreement with Vanderwall Associates for the West 2nd Street Corridor Consulting Project. Again, super excited about that as we head into 2022. Building on what we did between maybe, 2014, 15, 16 in there and up until the present. Getting that 2 blocks done downtown with the decorative improvements between Chestnut and Maple, and then of course the big one, Wenzel Family Plaza downtown. But this would be a plan for the future design of the areas along 2nd Street, west of Chestnut, so west of the post office. And a lot of opportunity there. We want to get Vanderwall involved in helping us design and how to pay for what could happen there. The final piece is maybe a smaller thing. I think I've mentioned before that we are in litigation with Marshfield Clinic. And again, this is not to be anything negative toward them. They feel that they're entitled to tax exempt status for 2 parcels, one that the east wing sits on and the other that the main clinic building is located on. The city has not seen that there is evidence to that effect that we would approve that. So we're headed toward potentially court, and we need to keep the services of our outgoing assessor, Jim Toth from Grota, to continue to work with our attorney in that case to do the work that has to be done to prepare in case we end up in circuit court. So this contract would allow us to buy his time, so to speak, on an hourly basis to do the work that might be needed to work with our attorneys on that matter. So there were really a lot of things on the consent agenda. Like you say all the time, Tom, one or more of them may be pulled for discussion. They may not be, but I think that it's important for the viewers to know what could be blessed within a very short time and what it means to the community.
Yes, thank you, Steve, for that. And if anybody wants to know more about those, they can go onto YouTube. Also tune into Channel 991. And I run those programs throughout the week, all the way through the weekend. Public Works, Finance, those programs.
Yep.
So you can get a little more information of what we just actually spoke about, because those were both Board of Public Works and Finance, Budget, Personnel, which were yesterday and Mondays. So tune into those. I think Finance was a half hour and Public Works was about an hour.
Yeah,
so
it was longer.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing for me right now for this is I get to do all these. That helps me know even more what's going on, rather than try to review them later. I'm actually there taping them because I'm a one-man band, but it works out pretty good. So, well, let's move into, Steve, into your recommended action. Let's just go right into an election inspectors, because everyone knows we have an election coming up, and we need people to help, if that's what that is.
Yeah, I want to give first kudos to the people who've served for any length of time, even a couple of years, but in many cases a long time, Tom, as election inspectors. These are not glamorous jobs, that people get paid, and I think we compensate them fairly for their time. But my gosh, you look at what it takes to be in one of those bigger elections, like the presidential back in 2020, or a governor's election, like we have on the other 2 years off from the presidential. Even the smaller elections, there's a lot of time commitment. You show up early, you have to make sure you do detail-oriented work. But we thank people for that. Well, we're always looking for new people. And so Deb Hall is bringing forth a list of election inspectors for the next 2 years. That's required by state law to approve them for a 2-year period. In this case, it'll be from January 1 of 2022 through December 31st of 2023. Some of them are people who've done this before, just re-upping, continuing onward. Others are likely people who are newer, joining with us. But you look at 2022, Tom, we have 4 elections scheduled that we know of for sure. The primary in February, which we can be pretty sure is going to happen now because we have a lot of interest in our municipal elections. And then the one we have in April for the school board and city elections. Then we get to August and we're going to have, among other things, the primary for the governor and probably primaries for other offices in Washington, D.C. And then, of course, the big one, the governor's general election in November. So there's a lot of work for these people to do. They have to be trained, they have to be skilled, they have to understand what's expected of them. And we applaud them. So if you're seeing this now and you're thinking, hey, I'm retired or I have interest, I'd like to be involved in this, what can I do? Please contact Deb Hall, the city clerk. Even if we have a full slate for now, they always have people who drop off for reasons of family issues and other things, maybe health issues. And we'd love to have you in the background as we're looking for people.
All right, well, give Deb a call or stop in. Monday through Thursday, hours 7:30 to 4:30. And then Fridays, again, we are closed at noon at City Hall. All right. Well, let's move into another item here, Steve. Taxi service. We got another contract. It sounds like it's almost yearly around here.
Yeah. We're going to have the final approval of this contract now written up with Running Incorporated. It's just a good chance for us to talk about this. And Justin from Running is going to be with us. We don't see him at meetings very often, but my understanding is he'll be present, and that'll be a good chance for him to articulate a few things and answer questions from the council as well. Again, as we've reported in the past, Tom, the reports we get in general are very good. People like Running. They've done a good job since they've been here now for nearly a decade, not quite, but I think they're about 8 years into their time with the city of Marshfield, and provide a shared ride taxi service. I know you pointed this out before. People need to understand that if you're picked up, you may well be in a cab with somebody else being transported, but it's important to people, especially if you're going to medical appointments or groceries or whatever it is that you need to get to have a quality taxi service. We have had questions come up in the past about some issues with the finances. I think I mentioned before that most of the cost is paid for by grants. A good share of it's paid by user fees, which of course now we bumped those up effective January 1st for people with disabilities and seniors from $2.85 per ride to $3. That'll be taking effect in less than 30 days. But so the council had some things they wanted to hear about how we're doing financially. How much does the city have to pay every year, for example, to make up that difference? We don't talk about that a lot. And then how are we able to track and deal with complaints? They raised the question, they wanted me to talk with Amy Krogman in our office, and we get calls, some come to us, some come to others. We refer them to the contractor, and how do we know that they get addressed? Can we close the loop on these? So we're going to give a little update on how many complaints we get about service issues, people not being picked up on time, maybe people feeling like they were not treated well, by the drivers or whatever. Infrequent as those complaints are, they do come from time to time. We're going to go over that too a little bit, let people know how we deal with those, and find out if the council has questions for Justin. Again, him being there in person will be an opportunity for them to maybe to give some thoughts too that they hear from the public.
All right. Well, we'll get to meet. What was his first name?
Justin Running.
Justin.
One of the proprietors of Running Incorporated. They're out of AWelcoming, and that's a long ways from Marshfield, but they have really done a good job. They run 20-some taxi services across the western 2/3 of Wisconsin.
All right. We'll look forward to seeing him when he arrives next Tuesday.
Yep.
Let's talk about a closed session item that you have on here that you said you'd talk about. It has to do with the TIF district. Is that right?
Yeah, Tom. It's TIF District 13, and I just want to keep giving updates because one of the things that you and I have talked about on many programs before is, can we develop more housing? Now, I can give a brief update from Josh Miller. He's signing on with people who had pre-purchased lots. They were pre-sold. They're now officially signing on to buy them and begin construction hopefully in calendar year 2022. But there's still a handful of lots out there. And so that 23 lot development is moving forward. But we're really excited about the one down to the west of Veterans Parkway, down in that area of 21st Street, that area in general. Opportunity for maybe as much as 60 new lots for single family and some two family development. So what's coming to the council on Tuesday night is a review of a potential development agreement with a development company that wants to take the reins and work with the city to get the infrastructure built out and to start putting in some lots. Well, you think about it, if we can get 23 new lots on the west end over off 5th, and we can work toward getting maybe as many as 60 new lots in the coming years down in the southeast part of town, a different price range, a little bit expected lower price range than the ones on the west end, we'll start to make progress to what we've been criticized for in the past, which is not having enough places for people who want to buy and build in the city of Marshfield. So I can't talk about the particulars of this development agreement. That's why we go into closed session. What are the terms? What would the city have to do? What's the developer's expectations? What do we require of them? But the main thing is it looks like this is probably going to come together, that there will be an agreement reached in the next, I hope 30 to 60 days, that we'll have the city looking at working with the developer to build out some infrastructure and have them work toward getting some new homes in the southeast part of town. And again, we have a lot of interest in people who want to buy and build here. and they will see more opportunities as a result.
Well, that's exciting, Steve, to hear that possibility to have more homes. That also helps our community grow. More businesses look to that. Maybe want to come, maybe open up something new with more people, more business, the better. All good news for us here at the city, as well as all our residents and people that come and visit. So
yeah, it really is, Tom. I know people have said to me sometimes, how come people are building in the town of McMillan? How come people are building in the town of Lincoln or whatever? You know, there are going to be people, and I've said this to you before, who want to build elsewhere. They want to have horses. They want to have 10 acres. They want to whatever. Not everybody is geared for city life, but it's frustrating when people are looking for lots to buy and build on in town, and they just don't feel like they have enough options. So this will be another step in working toward providing those opportunities.
all right, well, when there's some more news with that, you'll keep us informed. Maybe by next year we'll know a little bit more. It's always kind of odd to always say next year, but again, that's coming quick.
Yeah, it is. And other than what we talked about here today, I mean, a lot of what the city staff is doing right now, Tom, is kind of winding down year-end stuff. It's kind of like you might do at your own home, where you and your spouse might be kind of wrapping things up. Okay, honey, what do we need to do in 2022? What are the goals we need to have for maybe our home or our yard or whatever? We've got a new strategic plan for the next 3 years, but we kind of take a breath in this time of year like everybody else and kind of wrap up some final paperwork and look ahead to what we can make this city in the coming years.
All right, Steve, you have a piece that's not on the agenda, but I wanted to bring it up. It was on last council meeting, AWelcoming City. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, there was a discussion. I brought forward an item, a request from the Chamber of Commerce, Mackey, and it's also been endorsed by the UW Stevens Point campus here in Marshfield. I believe Midstate is talking about it now, and the clinic is also very supportive of this. The idea of having a statement, I think it's like 3 sentences long, that Marshfield is declaring itself to be a welcoming community that is accepting of diversity and opportunities for all, and that's the kind of thing that makes this a growing, thriving, vibrant place. And the council discussed this on the 23rd. I was actually out of state participating in that council meeting. And I didn't see opposition to it, but what I did get is some real good questions. How is this going to be used? And that is a good question because, one of the things, if you're on a city council or a village board in another community, you want to know, okay, if we endorse something, whatever it says, no matter what it says, are people going to come back to us later and say, no, wait a minute, you need to spend $50,000 to do this because remember back in November, you voted to say that this is what we're about or this is what we support. So I think the council wants to know how this will be used, what the things are. Is it going to be promotional only, or is it going to be toward other projects that they're working on? Certainly they want to make sure they're not obligating themselves to things that we may not have the finances or other resources or even necessarily the desire to be partners on. So I'm right now talking with Scott Larson and others. We'll get somebody there to talk more specifically about the rationale and the desire for how this would be used. That may happen this coming Tuesday, but I suspect it might not be till the following meeting. But I would say that no matter how this turns out, that the city of Marshfield certainly is interested in having anybody interested come to town, work here, live here, play here, develop businesses here, and that is important to our growth and development.
All right. Well, let's review some dates here, Steve. I don't think we're going to be here on Christmas Eve. That would have been our second council meeting.
You got other plans or what?
I do.
Okay.
So that one I'm not going to be. I'm going to stick to my guns now.
Yeah.
On
behalf of myself, I'll say hopefully it's not last minute shopping at that point.
Can you tell me a little bit about, we're going to have two council meetings, basically, one next Tuesday and then the following Tuesday. Is that right?
Yeah, right. The one on the 14th we've talked about, that's the normal schedule. And then on the 21st, it'll be judiciary and licensing, which we sometimes call JL, at 5 o'clock. They deal with the requests for bartenders' licenses and other things. At 5:30, there'll be a finance, budget, and personnel committee meeting. And then at 6 o'clock will be the regular council meeting as normal. Thought it might be 7 to allow time for Plan Commission, but Plan Commission is actually going to meet on the 15th to avoid that conflict. So we'll have 3 meetings at 5, 5:30, and 6, and then we'll take a break. And the next regular city meeting won't be till after the first of the year.
Okay, well, a little bit different agenda then, isn't that? They have to read in, do they have to read in stuff that night?
Yeah, they'll have to read in those two meetings from earlier in the day, judiciary and licensing and finance. And if there's a Board of Public Works meeting on the 20th, which it doesn't look like there'll be now, but if there is, Dan Kinect will have to read those minutes in too, because they need to accept those minutes and to embrace any of the items that were approved or recommended for approval by those boards.
All right. Well, anything else, Steve, that you want to bring up? This is the last of the month for us here in this studio.
Yeah, and the last of the year as far as a council preview, if we don't do next week. A pleasure working with you as always, Tom. Looking forward to some good things in the coming year, starting with an assistant coming on board for Tom Laux in this department. You've got some big hopes and dreams and goals and a lot of talent and enthusiasm backing that, but you need somebody else with you. But we've also got a lot of other goals, and I think we mentioned earlier the hiring that needs to go on in the first quarter too. So there'll be a lot to talk about on future broadcasts.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks again, Steve, for coming. I do appreciate it. I hope our viewers do as well. Again, you have a question that you want us to bring up, or even though it's not related to maybe the agenda we're talking about, I'd say call me, 715-486-2070. Kind of a little bit like WDLB, get a chance to ask a question, not live, but I'd be willing to bring that up here, Steve, and get that answered for people. So
yeah, Tom, can I put one more plug that I forgot to put
it's all yours.
for the filing period for elected office? You still have until the end of the day, Tuesday, January 4th, to put in your candidacy for mayor or council. There's 5 council seats. It's the odd number districts this time, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And as I mentioned, mayor as well. But you need to get going. As we tape this, as Tom said, it's December 8th. And you need to not just come in and say, hey, I want to run. You've got to go through some filing paperwork. You've got to get signatures of support. So there is time. But if you're interested, please act in the very near future.
Alrighty, well, yes, thank you for that information. Go to our website, ci.marshfield.wi.us. I know I said it fast. Go to clerk. You can go to elections, and that information Steve was talking about. Get a sneak peek there, but you still do need to come in and do some paperwork that I believe you have to do in person. Correct. So, all right, we're going to sign off, Steve, for this year of 2021 for our council preview. Wow. I can't believe how fast it goes.
I know.
But enjoy sitting here talking, learn a little bit more about city government. Hope you guys do as well. Feel free to give me a call anytime, or give Steve a call if you have time, or stop in here. I'm located on the 5th floor. Thanks for watching. I'm Tom Laux, Communications Director for the City of Marshfield and on Marshfield Broadcasting.